Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to talk about right now is the government shutdown, okay? Because I know that a lot of you will be affected by this, as well as this family as well. A community member sent this article to me. I'm going to get into a lot of detail when it comes to this, okay? But her son sent this to her, and he's in Alaska because he's in the military. So with a possible government shutdown less than a week away, okay, I mean, we've literally got 3 days to go, okay. Defense leaders says that the nations will remain protected, but service members may end up doing that defense work without being paid. And elsewhere, training operations could be curtailed as well, which will affect long-term readiness. But efforts to supply the Ukraine may also be hampered. Okay, so a shutdown, it puts the government on a complete standstill. Complete standstill. And the U.S. military is going to continue to do its job and protect our national security interests and those of our allies and partners as well. While the nation will remain safe, there will be challenges of the young service members who provide that security to their families and the long-term readiness that comes from the training that keeps them combat ready. A shutdown will be detrimental for this department, and troops will go without pay. Military families will be impacted, of course. For folks that are not getting paychecks, this impacts how and when they buy groceries, pay for childcare, pay their rent, how they live 100%, okay? So we are still hoping that Congress can reach a deal to avert a shutdown, but you know how this goes. Because it does not affect them directly, you know what I'm saying. But still plan for that, or take steps to plan for it, because a shutdown can occur. While commissaries will be closed on most bases for the continental U.S., defense officials said that they will remain open overseas and in certain remote U.S. locations where no other sources of food are reasonably available for military personnel. And while national security will be maintained during a shutdown, readiness will suffer as the training operations that keep service members sharp are curtailed. When you don't have your full operating capacity to be able to help with a mission, to be able to conduct an exercise or a training, of course that gets our national security and our readiness. In Europe, other efforts under the Operation Atlantic Resolve provide increased troop rotations and equipment to the operation theater to help maintain security there. And the Pentagon officials have said that they expect to be able to maintain much of that effort through a government shutdown, but there will still be some effects that are felt here, okay? Things could be delayed when it comes to training. If any of our personnel are furloughed, that could have impacts to, you know, the larger mission. Now, when it comes to supporting Ukraine, the U.S. could still offer equipment and support as needed, but a government shutdown could affect the department's ability to actually draw down that equipment from stocks and get it there. So now I'm going to talk about everything else. I'm going to talk about how it's going to impact millions of Americans, okay? And you have to understand that when it comes to shutdowns, it's not just our military that gets affected here, okay? It's government jobs, it's a mess. It's a mess, and it's not easy, okay? House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is looking for progress this week as the lower chamber tries to move a series of appropriation bills that ultimately determine the budget for the federal government. God bless you. And a deal has to be reached this week. It has to be. It's a must. It's not, oh, well, we can put it off. It's not anything like that, okay? It is a must. And it's in order to avoid an October 1st shutdown. And the business of all of this is that my husband's paycheck doesn't go in until October 2nd. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Senate is trying to move a continuing resolution, a stopgap, if you will. It's a spending bill that would temporarily fund federal agencies for another 45 days and avoid a shutdown. But it would come with a potential risk to McCarthy, who has hardline conservatives in the House calling for his removal if he works with Democrats or passes a continuing solution. And here's what this means. Social Security recipients will continue to receive your Social Security checks in the event of a government shutdown, and Medicare benefits will not be interrupted. Okay, so sigh of relief. Okay. However, employees in the Social Security Administration, okay, they're going to be furloughed, and government food assistance benefits could see a delay. Okay, so that means SNAP benefits. Okay, you're probably not going to get your SNAP benefits, okay, because the employees who work in the Social Security Administration, they are going to be furloughed. Okay, a few services that are not directly related to Social Security payment benefits and direct services operations could temporarily be suspended. So you don't have to live in Washington for a government shutdown to affect you. We all know this. But if lawmakers cannot reach a compromise to keep the government's doors open, shutdowns have a wide-ranging impact for all Americans. The FDA might have to delay some non-essential food safety inspections, which can cause a huge mess, and you know that. I mean, look at all the recalls that we dealt with, okay? The Occupational Safety and Health Administration could also limit their work. Food assistance programs could also see delays. People who need to travel across the country and across the world could see disruptions in air travel. A government shutdown may impact students ranging from preschool to college graduates. 10,000 children could lose access to Head Start care programs. Okay, so for those of us that have little ones and they go to government funding daycare, which is called Head Start, guess what? They can't go no more. Not until this gets back up and running, all right? And some student loan borrowers, you're going to see some disruptions. So McCarthy said that the House will look to pass their version of a stopgap measure with border security provisions toward the end of the week. He said, we will move a continuing resolution, bring a rule to the floor to secure border to keep the government open. Now, the House Speaker said regardless if the continuing resolution has enough votes to pass, the lower chamber will hold a vote on the stopgap measure with border security provisions. This will likely fall on Friday. So this Friday coming up, all right? He said, I want to keep the government open. I want to do the job. So a government lockdown or shutdown, whatever they're called, same thing really, would start on Sunday. So this Sunday coming up. If lawmakers cannot pass a federal budget or stopgap measure by September 30th, the stopgap, known as a continuing resolution, would prevent an October 1st shutdown by temporarily extending government funding. So why would there be a government shutdown? Well, hold off on placing any bets right now, okay? If lawmakers in the House and the Senate can reach a compromise by September 30th on a dozen bills, so that means if they can be nice to each other and they can agree, okay, that the government can stay funded and a shutdown is now off the table, we're good to go. But if anybody gets a hair on their hiney, guess what? All right. So Congress could also pass a temporary measure to keep the government funded, known as a continuing resolution, whatever. But both of those options are unlikely as of Tuesday morning. And why? Because lawmakers have not agreed on one of the 12 bills. So someone got a hair on their hiney. That's what that means, okay? And they need that to pass these bills. And a group of conservative House Republicans have insisted on hardline spending cuts that have no chance of passing in the Senate, which is currently controlled by who? The Democrats. So last week, House Democrats and moderate Republicans, they appeared to start working on a fallback plan, but it's not clear the rail bipartisan push would receive enough support to dodge a shutdown. Well, you know what? They need to knock it off, okay? Because there's a lot more of us than there are of them, and we're the ones that get affected, not them, right? They're not the ones that have to go without a paycheck. It's us, right? So stop it. Go to your corners. Put your dunce cap back on. And sit there in silence until I tell you to get up, or until you can agree that you're going to play nice, right? Because that's what this is becoming. This is becoming like kindergarten all over again, when the teacher punishes you because you can't break the graham cracker on the perforated line. So cut it out. Having to use my teacher voice, okay? When I used to be a gymnastics teacher, go and sit. Stop. Okay, so the Senate's continuing resolution released on Tuesday evening the funds through government through November 17th, but some of the funding listed in the packages include $4.5 billion allocated to Ukraine, $6 billion in emergency funding to FEMA for a disaster relief fund, $2.9 billion to Federal Aviation or FAA, let's just say that, FAA operations. So senators are voting Tuesday evening, okay, this is just the Tuesday, okay, for FAA reauthorization bill, which will be used as the vehicle to pass the stopgap measure if it passes in the upper chamber. So shortly after the Senate released its bipartisan version of a short-term stopgap measure to avert a government shutdown, House conservatives said that the bill is dead on arrival in the lower chamber. Okay, so now any spending package that they say has to include border security provisions. All right. Well, they said if you want to continue federal spending, then you have to secure the border. And that was said by Representative Byron Donalds, a Republican from Florida. He's ultra-conservative lawmaker and a key negotiator in the House. That is a position in the House that is my view. The members are not going to yield. All right, I can agree with that, can't you? So then you have Representative Garrett Graves, a Republican from Louisiana, a close McCarthy ally, echoed similar sentiments and told reporters that the House GOP lawmakers are focused on leveraging this moment right now to force the White House into closing the border. Okay, if that's the only thing that is stopping people from agreeing, just say, okay, for just now, just do it now, okay? Because if that's, I mean, come on, man, seriously, just do it, just do it. So then, as the country barrels towards a shutdown, the limited time remaining for Congress to pass a funding package, the only likely resolution to avert A government shutdown is for lawmakers to pass a short-term stopgap bill called a continuing resolution, and to keep the lights on while lawmakers hammer out a deal. But conservative hardliners who have impeded McCarthy's attempts to pass spending bills in demand for deep spending cuts say they will not vote for a continuing resolution under any circumstances. Okay, so you're going to let millions of Americans who depend on their government paycheck, like the military, go without because you don't want to play nice today? Huh. Wow. You need to get your priorities in check, man. Just saying. Now, I know I've said the word continuing resolution, that term, over and over again. So here's what it actually means. It's a stopgap measure that extends last year's spending levels for a designated period of time. Now, questions remain as to what a stopgap could look like, or for how long it could extend spending levels. Well, previous stopgap measures have extended funding to the end of the calendar year, but McCarthy has hinted at a shorter, like 1 month extension. So if that makes any sense, okay? So now I'm going to tell you something that I'm sure you already know, and that's why these guys don't really care. Members of Congress, they still get paid during a government shutdown. That's why they don't care. They don't. Some lawmakers, however, have actually introduced bills in the past to withhold pay for lawmakers during a shutdown. Let them feel what we feel. But you know what? They're so rich, it still won't affect them none, you know? But I'm really... Oh boy. Now, if you're asking yourself about your VA disability payments, they are available during a shutdown, including compensation, pension, education, and housing benefits. And this also includes your disability payments. Okay, so those are not affected by a shutdown. Okay. Now, government shutdowns can last however long. However long it takes for someone to put on a big boy and big girl panties and deal with whatever they got to deal with. Okay? It could take days, weeks, months. So, one of the worst ones that we had was when 45 was in office and my husband had to go to work every single day for 3 months and not get paid. Yeah, that was so much fun. It was the most god-awful time. God-awful time, I will tell you that. I'm sorry, not 3 months. Oh my God, my brain is so fried right now. It was 35 days, but it felt like 3 months. Let me just say that. It felt like 3 months. Yeah, it was terrible. And lastly, if you're wondering if you are a state employee, a shutdown could actually impact state employees whose employers depend on federal funds to operate and must shut down certain activities that the government has deemed non-necessary. So, but I hope that this explained everything to you in layman's terms, that, you know, so you guys understand, because I know sometimes this stuff can get crazy and it can be confusing and things like that, but at least you guys know what is affected, what is not affected, and hopefully it doesn't shut down, because wow, what a mess. All right guys, I'm out of here. Okay, I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less. Ciao.